Hello, Jayashree. Am I audible to you, Jayashree? Can you all see the slides?
No, ma'am.
Slides are not seen, huh? Wait. Slides ಕಾಣಿಸ್ತಿಲ್ಲ. Can you see the slides now?
No, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Let's go.
Okay. Jayashree, can you hear me? Jayashree? Okay. I'll start with the class. Should I start?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So can you all see this slide?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Fine. So now here the question is that just observe this clinical feature here. So the question is saying that a patient of 10 years old presents with dry plaque skin and also complains of he cannot read in the poor light. So there is a problem with what? Vision problem is there. So this point has to be noted. Then also complaints of the pain while urination. So this is one more additional finding over here. Then on clinical examination, there was increase in dark adaptation. So again, there is a eye problem or the vision problem. Am I audible? Jayashree,
Yes, ma'am.
Akash, Roshan, Salaluddin.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
internalization of the extensor surfaces as shown in the diagram. So the thing is, no, like on the skin, these are the extensor surface. So here you can see some lesions like this, which are little bit elevated. Can you all see it here?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Hello, Smriti. Fine. So now the thing is that there are the question is a clinical case-based presentation. So here certain things we need to concentrate. So first thing, age of the patient. So the patient is a child case. So the patient is 10 years age. That is the first point. And second thing is that most of the complaints are related to the vision problem. That is vision problem that patient cannot see in the poor light, and along with that there is also increase in dark adaptation. So there is two features which are totally related to the vision problem. The third point is there is a pain while urination. So pain while urination. Now can you tell me like what might be the probable like the option suitable for this clinical presentation? Students,
Vitamin A deficiency.
who said this? Roshan?
Ma'am, Roshan, ma'am.
Salaluddin? Yeah, very good.
Yes.
So now the thing is that we need to like differentiate between vitamin A deficiency and deficiency of the essential fatty acids. So like the clinical features of these two, they mimic with each other. They mimic with what? Each other. So where we can see phrenoderma or this one
Cannot.
follicular hyperkeratosis. Yeah, what happened?
This is hyperkeratosis, ma'am.
Yes, excellent. So what you can see here is there is a hyperkeratosis of the skin surface, especially on the extensor areas. Now the thing is that along with this, if the patient also complains of the vision related problem, then directly our focus will go on which one, students? Vitamin
Vitamin.
A. And along with that, whenever there is a vitamin A deficiency, the patient sometimes they may present with the what renal stones. Because of that, what happens? There will be pain while urination. So these are the certain classical clinical features of what? Vitamin A deficiency. So now looking at the clinical presentation, I don't think it should be vitamin C deficiency. So what is the
Yes.
problem with vitamin C deficiency?
Scurvy.
Scurvy. So there you may see the gum bleeding or bleeding in the joint areas. So wound will be, there will be delayed wound healing. So these are the typical features of vitamin C deficiency, that is deficiency of ascorbic acid. So vitamin D, no, it is nowhere linked over here. Then again, vitamin A, yes, we can think of this, and vitamin K, no, because there are other features. That is, vision problem is there, which is not linked with the vitamin K problem. So the option what we can choose here is which one, students? Vitamin
Vitamin.
A deficiency. So clinical picture and read the case presentation, and then you have to correlate your knowledge with the given options over here. Next, some of the facts, whatever I'll be telling in this present class, everything has been asked as an MCQ for you, right? So, what are the basic components of the nutrients or the food?
Proximate
So,
principles.
yes, excellent. So, these macronutrients, micronutrients, and trace elements. So, these are the three major components of the food. So, which are very much essential for the day-to-day survival. Now, these macronutrients, what does it contains? It contains proteins, fats, and the carbohydrates. Yes. So these are the three things, and which constitutes the bulk of the food, and how it is what presented. Always they should be represented in grams per day. So how much proteins is required for the grams per day. So these units are very important. So based on the amount that is required for the body, they have been divided into macronutrients, micronutrients, and trace elements. If you come to trace micronutrients, the quantity will be reduced. The grams will become what? Milligrams. So vitamins is the one of the example for micronutrients and trace elements. So trace elements again like iodine, fluorine. So all these are the examples of what, students? Trace elements.
It's element.
So trace elements again their quantity required is what, students? It is very much less, further less. Its quantity will be micrograms. So for example, in the examination if they ask what is the daily requirement of iodine for a normal adult, for a normal adult. So for a normal adult, how much it is required? 150
150.
micrograms. Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
So now if the option is given 150 milligrams and micrograms, which one will you choose, students?
Micro.
Jayashree, Smriti,
Program.
huh?
My
Microgram, very good. So the option here is microgram. So always the units you should be very, very much careful. So iodine, why I'm stressing here? Because again it has been asked in the examination. What is the quantity of iodine required during pregnancy or lactation? Students,
Ma'am,
can you tell me?
around 220 to
Huh?
40, 220 to 290, ma'am.
Yes, very good. Excellent answer. If that is not option available, 220 or 290 is not available, then you can just look for 250. Yes, 250 micrograms per day. So these numbers are very, very important. Whatever points I'm telling you, all these are very important. Yes, Smriti,
yes,
Akash,
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
and I think newcomer Upadhyalu also. Okay. Now, after that, let us see these three carbohydrates, proteins, fats. These three are called as what? Macronutrients. They are called as what? Macronutrients. Now, their requirement is at a higher level as compared to that of the micro and trace elements. Now, let us see how much energy each one will give. So, what is energy? Like, what do you mean by energy? It is represented in terms of kilocalories. Like, if you burn this carbohydrate, if you burn, okay, so if you burn this carbohydrate, then how much can you just switch off the microphone? There is some disturbance is there, whoever is using. So the amount of heat that is required to raise the temperature of water by 1 degree centigrade, by 1 degree centigrade, so that we call it as what? Kilocalorie. So how much heat we require to raise the temperature of the water by 1 degree centigrade is kilocalories. Now when we see this carbohydrate, take some carbohydrate like rice or whatever it is, then you heat it, then you see how much temperature is required to raise the temperature per by 1 degree centigrade, that denotes the kilocalories. Now 1 gram of carbohydrate will yield how much? 4 kilocalories of energy. This point you have to remember per day. Or sometimes the option may be given as 4.1 kilocalories also. So both are you can go for opting it. Then proteins, it yields 4.2 kilocalories. Then fat, how much it will yield? Nearly
9.
9 kilocalories of energy. So now if you see the increasing order of this thing, the lowest is carbohydrate, followed by protein, then fats yield the maximum energy. Then again in examination they can ask a question for you. Arrange the energy yielding substances in the order wise. Yes. Then the contribution, if you take it in the diet, how much the carbohydrate content should be? Nearly 10 to 15% should be there. Yes. Then proteins 15 to 30% should be there. Then fats 50 to 70% should be there. So this is the amount of the food to be consumed every day. Next, coming to the general thing, that is amino acids. So in amino acids we have got different types: essential amino acids, then non-essential amino acids, that is they are already synthesized, our body can prepare them. Essential amino acids means they are like difficult to prepare. How do you say that it is an essential amino acid?
It
Ah,
is not synthesized in our body. It should be means from
hmm.
outside, ma'am. Should be
It should be from the
provided.
outset. And chemically also, when you see, their structure is very difficult. So sometimes they may contain sulfur group or different combination of groups will be there. So our body finds it's very difficult to synthesize as a own. So what the thing is there, we need to get it from the external source. So that's why we say that they are essential amino acids. So there are some 11 essential amino acids. Among them, the very important is, all these are very important, but here the things, again in this essential amino acids, certain things we need to know, that conditionally essential amino acids, there are two things, that is cysteine and tyrosine. So
Yes.
just
Hello,
see
ma'am.
here, what happened.
Ma'am, slides are not visible, I guess, ma'am.
Lights are not visible now.
Yes, ma'am. Visible, ma'am.
Okay. So now the thing is that there is something called as conditional essential amino acids. The example is cysteine and tyrosine. Why they are called as conditional essential means, this cysteine is there. So if you want to get this cysteine, so cysteine will be prepared from what? Its prerequisite is what? Which one? Tryptophan. If tryptophan is there, then cysteine can be prepared. Then tyrosine, its prerequisite is what? Phenylalanine. Phenylalanine. So when these two are deficient in the diet, then again these two will not be synthesized. So what does it mean? So if you want this particular two amino acids, then these two precursors are required, and if these two are only deficient, then these two also will not be produced. So therefore cysteine and tyrosine are called as conditionally, a condition is required for that. So that's why they are called as conditionally essential amino acids. Then semi essential amino acids means they are arginine and histidine. Arginine and histidine. So what does
Yes,
it means? That even though we take it from diet externally, sometimes during pregnancy or during adolescence or during lactation, so what happens? Our body demands will be very high. It will be asking that furthermore additional amounts are required. So that's why they are called as semi essential amino acids. Example is arginine and histidine. So question can be asked on conditionally essential and semi essential amino acids. Then what are limiting amino acids? Are you all getting? Smriti, Akarsh,
yes, ma'am.
Roshan and others?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Okay. Now, limiting amino acids means these are the amino acids which are deficient in certain group of foods. Like cereals, if you see, they are usually deficient in lysine and
Surely.
threonine. And pulses, they are deficient in cysteine and methionine. Maize, again it is deficient in tryptophan
Tryptophan.
and lysine. But maize is rich in which one, students?
Leucine.
Leucine. So
Yes, ma'am.
maize is rich in leucine. Now what will
Yes,
happen? Because of leucine, what is happening? There is no proper production of the what? Niacin. So because in leucine, it will inhibit the production of niacin. So now what will happen? That is vitamin B3.
ma'am.
So whoever consumes lot of this maize, it is also called as corn or butta. So now whoever consumes this in maximum quantity, then they'll be deficient in niacin. So this niacin deficiency leads to what? Pellagra. So therefore, maize is also called as pelagropagenic food. Now, if you want to compensate this deficiency, you need to have the food a combination of these food items so that they will supplement each other. So that's what we call it as supplementary action of food. So therefore, in our routine food, what we take rice plus dal. So whatever the rice is deficient, that deficiency will be compensated by the dal, that is a pulses. Now let us see some of the important proteins over here. So important proteins are soya bean. So soya bean is also called as queen of the proteins because it contains very good quality proteins. The quality of the more than quality, you can say it contains very good quantity of the proteins. So like it nearly contains 43 grams of the proteins as compared to any other type of protein, and it contains only 19% of the 19 grams of the fat, and the calorie yielded by the soya bean is maximum, that is 432 kilocalories per 100 grams. So that's why soya bean is also called as what? Queen of all the proteins. Then after that, look at this picture. It is called as soya chunk or soya nuggets. Yes. Now, what is the thing over here is whatever the fat is present in this soya bean. So once the fat content is removed, and this is prepared synthetically. So now after the fat is removed, so through the artificial means, these chunks are prepared. So they are usually deficient or less content of the fat will be there. Next, coming to the another type of protein, that is rajma. So this is something like a reddish color of the protein or the pulses, and it also is deficient in methionine and cysteine. And if you see the nutritive value, it contains 22 more grams of the what proteins, and fat is 1.3. So when you compare to soya bean, all other pulses nutritive value is less. So that's why soya bean is called as queen of all the proteins. Then energy it yields is 346 calories per 100 grams. Now what is this? The black color and white color thing. Students, can anybody tell me? Anyone? It is the urad dal.
Urad dal.
Urad dal or the black gram. So the outer this black color layer, if it is removed, then it appears like this whitish in color. So using this we can make idli, vada and all. So the most of the South Indian dishes are prepared with it, and it mainly contains 348 grams of energy it will yield, and fat content is 1.2, and protein content is 24 grams per 100 gram. And the other one is red gram. So here what you can see is red gram. So again, little bit less amount of protein it contains, that is 22 grams. Fat content is little bit higher as compared to this urad dal, and the calories yielded is also little bit less. Now what will happen is that sometimes as a part of food adulteration, see, can you see this particular picture here? What are these? Students,
Kesari
can
dal.
you tell me?
Kesari dal.
It is a kesari dal. So kesari dal. Now when you remove this outer layer and when you dehusk it, so what happens? It will have a appearance almost all similar or close to this red gram. Now what the people will do? They will mix this kesari dal with the red gram, so that what will happen when this mixture happens and people consume this over a period of time, maybe 4 months or like that, then they will develop symptoms of lathyrism. Now, what is this lathyrism? Lathyrism is nothing but when the kesari dal is consumed over a period of time, then it will lead to neurological symptoms because of the toxin that is present in this kesari dal. Now, one more important thing is that the following dal is called as a poor man's dal. Which of the following is called as a poor man's dal? And the answer is which one, students? It is
Kesari
kesari
dal.
dal.
Kesari
Why
dal.
it is called as poor man's dal? Now if you see some facts about this kesari dal, so now why people they grow this, because in Madhya Pradesh, Rawa district and all, in Uttar Pradesh, Bihar and other regions of India, can you all see the slides?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now what happens in these states which are very much famine and drought affected area? So the farmers they put the wheat seeds and they put the seeds of this kesri dal or Lathyrus sativus. Now, what will happen if there is rain, good amount of rain, then wheat crop will grow. Which crop will grow? Wheat crop. If there is no rain, then what will happen? This kesri dal or the Lathyrus sativus crop, it will grow. So that means what? This crop growing, it doesn't require much of water, or soil requirements are not that demanding. So it can grow in any famine soil or in any bad soil also, even the water is not there. So now what happens, because of this, the farmers, they try to grow this particular kesri dal, and when they consume, there is a toxin called as BOA. This is very important MCQ related question, that is beta oxyl amine
Ma'am,
alanine. So
I'll-
this particular toxin, it is a neurotoxin. It is what, students? It is a
neurotoxin.
neurotoxin. Now this neurotoxin, it will affect our nervous system, and it will produce clinical features, so that I will discuss very shortly. And another type of lathyrism is osteolathyrism, that is, it affects the bones, and this is more commonly seen in the animals. So the lathyrism which is seen in animals, it is called as osteolathyrism, and the lathyrism that is seen in humans, it is the neurolathyrism, and it is endemic also. Now let us see some of the clinical features of this lathyrism. So the first point, so they may give a case presentation. They may show a boy or the person with holding one stick, and look at the legs. They are bent over here. See the foot over here. So everything is bent, and the body spine is also bent over here. So the person is not able to stand properly nor able to walk properly. Now there are different four clinical stages over here. The first stage is called as latent stage. So in this stage, there will be weakness of the lower limbs. The lower limbs, they will become weak or flaccid. Then what will happen? It is a reversible state. So at this stage, if it is identified and the person withdraws using this kesri dal, then the things can be corrected. The person may become normal. But if still the person keeps on consuming this kesri dal, then what happens? There will be flexion of the knees. Look at the knees; they are flexed over here, and there will be certain amount of what difficulty in walking. So then the person will start walking only with the toes. So difficulty in walking will be seen, but there in this stage, stick use is not required. And whereas in one stick and two stick stage, what will happen? The person is not able to walk by himself or herself. So it is definitely that they have to use a stick. If two sticks are used, then again it is set as two stick stage. And crawler stage means no need of stick. The person has to crawl like a baby. So there will be atrophy of the thigh and leg muscles. So these are the different clinical stages the person will go on. So these are the stages of lathyrism, and the cases or the questions can be asked related to this. So what is the toxin related to lathyrism, students?
BOA.
BOA. What is the full form of BOA? Beta
Beta-oxyl
oxalo
aminolanin.
amino alanine. Yes. Now let us see some of the facts about proteins, because these tables are very important in examination. They can give which is the highest energy yielding protein once it has been asked. So related to this particular section, that is in kilocalories per 100 gram. If you consume 100 gram of any of the following pulses or protein containing item, which of the following will yield maximum energy? So always if the
Soybean.
soya bean is there, opt for soya bean. Soybean yields how much? 432 kilocalories of energy. If soybean is not there, then it is Bengal gram. It will yield nearly 360 kilograms of energy. And remember that most of the pulses are deficient in which one? They are deficient in vitamin C. So most of the pulses are deficient in vitamin C. This point has to be noted. Then again coming to the calcium. So the pulses, which pulse is more what rich in calcium? It is horse gram. If the option is given, like which of the following pulses are rich in calcium, it is again horse gram. If this option is not there, then kindly tick this soya bean. Yes. So pulses are deficient in vitamin C, and pulses are rich in which one, students? Calcium, and the
Calcium.
richest one is which one? Horse gram.
Horse gram.
Yes, and the pulse with the maximum amount of protein is again soya bean.
soybean.
This point is a must and has to be remembered. After soybean, which is the richest protein containing pulse, it is the green gram. Anybody from Andhra over here? Anyone?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, in Andhra we prepare pesarettu, no?
Yes, sir.
Pesar pappu or
Green
pesarettu.
gram.
So that it contains highest amount of the protein after the soya bean. Now let us see this. What is this clinical presentation? Look at here. Both the limbs are there. And what is this?
Dropsy.
Huh? Okay,
Ma'am,
this
Edema is
dropsy, ma'am.
sitting.
dropsy. Very good. What is the meaning of dropsy? The meaning of dropsy is what? Edema. So
This
Yes,
is
edema.
sitting edema is present.
Yeah. So it is a pitting type of edema. Very good. So whoever has answered. So when you try to press this particular edematous area, it will give this pitting type of presentation. Now, what is this exactly? What is the, just a second, somebody has joined. Now, can you see the clinical presentation here? So there is a pitting type of edema. Now, this indicates that this is a classical presentation of the epidemic dropsy. Dropsy means edema. Now, what happens? Can you see here mustard seeds? Do you all know mustard seeds?
yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, I think in Telugu it is called as avalo, right?
Owl.
Yes, these black color things, no, they are called as mustard. Now, sometimes as a part of food adulteration or unintentionally also, this word is very important. Two things, unintentionally, farmer may not be aware. So, what happens? There is one weed called as ergemone. So this is a particular type of plant. So it looks like this. Look at here. It is a pines. Pine means what? Some sharp pines are present. So what happens? This particular weed, it will grow along with this mustard growing plant. Yes, brassica plant. Now what happens when it grows along with this? Then the farmer will try to pluck the seeds of this particular plant also. Look at this seed. This is a flower. Once a flower turns into seed, it will contain all these seeds inside it like this. Now when you see this, the mustard seed, it will look smooth. It will look how it looks smooth. Whereas this particular this one argemone plant seeds, it will be very much rough. If you look at, even it looks black in color, but its surface will be how much? It will be rough. Now what they will do, they will tend to mix this seed and this seed. Then what happens, and the person consumes this, then the problem will start, because this particular seed, it contains sanguinarine and dihydrosanguinarine. These are the two toxins that are present in this particular argemone plant. Have you ever observed this particular plant? I think it's most commonly seen on the roadside also. Have anybody observed this, students?
Mm,
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know if you have observed. It is very good actually. If not, also in future, try to observe this particular thing. It is very toxic actually, and it contains this type of peculiar type of seeds. Now, these are the two toxins, because MCQ has been asked on this. Which are the toxins responsible for this dropsy, that is edematous condition? Now, what will happen when it is consumed? These toxins are released from this seed, and it will cause what? Dilatation of the blood vessels. The blood vessels, whatever is there, they'll get dilated. Now what happens? This dilatation results in gap between the endothelial cells, right? Now this gap between the endothelial cells leads to what? Leak of fluids from intravascular compartment to the extravascular compartment. Now what will happen? There will be accumulation of the fluid, right? Do you all agree with this? And this
yes,
accumulation of
sir.
fluid, what will happen? It will lead to edema, and this edema usually first is seen in the most dependent parts of the body. Later, it will become generalized edema, that we call it as what? Anasarca, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So now it will start as the initial edema, that is in the what extreme parts of the body it will start. Then later it will lead to generalized edema, and death is mainly because of the what? Cardiac arrest, because heart will find it very difficult to pump such a heavy load. So it will be unable to pump, and from the lungs also fluid will accumulate. Everywhere accumulation will be taking place. So the person will ultimately die because of this edema problem. Then, along with that clinical presentation, there will be anemia, that is microcytic anemia. hypochromic, microcytic anemia will be seen. So this particular thing is very important. Why I am explaining all this? Because case presentation can be given to you. A patient has come to you and presented what microscopic this thing type of anemia will be there, and edema is there, and pitting type of edema. Along with that, very important is eye problem, glaucoma will be there. So this is a very important point. So whoever consumes this particular affected mustard seed oil, after 4 weeks, this eye vision problem will start. This is very important. So initial problems will be what? This edema and difficulty in what breathing, then lethargy, all this will be initial features. Then later what will happen? This glaucoma eye problem is very important. So when all these features are given, then students stick that it is epidemic dropsy. Why it is called as epidemic? That means it is localized to only certain regions. In India, West Bengal, when it was reported in 1887, a suddenly massive people from West Bengal who were consuming oil, mustard seed oil. So when this mustard seed oil was contaminated with this particular thing, then argemone seeds, then this problem was seen. Patients started presenting with all this problem. Bihar, Orissa, Smriti, Roshan, in your place, do you consume this mustard seed oil?
Yes, ma'am.
Huh?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So whatever it is, be careful whenever this particular mustard seed oil is consumed. So these are the certain regions where it is consumed. Are you all clear over here?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Right.
ma'am.
Okay. So now, after knowing lathyrism and epidemic dropsy, now let us come to some of the cereals. So I'll be talking about exam-oriented point cereals. So what you can see here, students, this is what? Polished rice.
Rice.
Polished one.
Yes. So how do you identify it is a polished rice? It will look
White
very
in color.
reddish in
Whitish.
color, and it looks very beautiful also. So looking at this, don't think that it is what rich. So looks are very deceptive. Remember this point. Those who look very good, then finally it will be deficient only. Yes. So this polished rice, what happens? It is called as rich man's rice. It is also called as what, students?
Rich
Rich
man's
man's
rice.
Nice.
rice. Now, the energy yielded by this polished rice, it is 345 kilocalories, very important. And remember this, the protein content. In examination, once the protein content of this polished rice has been asked, it is around 6.8 grams per 100 gram. Now, how it has become so much of white? So, what they will do, they will do a process called as milling. That is, outer layer of the rice is removed. So, that we call it as what? Milling. Now, in this milling, what will happen? There will be loss of proteins up to 15%. Thiamine, that is a very important B complex vitamin, 75% is lost. So, what will happen? This will lead to the deficiency of the thiamine, resulting in which one, students?
B1.
Very.
Vitamin B1.
Very. So this vitamin part, I'll discuss it tomorrow. Then again, there will be deficiency of the vitamin B2,
Right.
riboflavin,
Right.
then 60%
Yes.
deficiency will be there. So what is there? This polished rice is very much bad in its nutritive value. Yes, do you all agree with this?
Hmm.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, just a second. Now, another very important question that can be asked in comparison with the milk. So, among rice and milk, which contains lot of protein, more protein. So, students, which one will you say? Milk contains more protein or rice contains more protein? Students, it is always rice.
Right.
Rice, ma'am.
Yes. Because if you see the values, milk contains 1.1 to 4.3 grams of proteins, but rice contains how much, students? 6.8
6.8.
grams. This point you fix it in your mind. Don't erase it. Milk or rice, in which protein is more? Students, these are facts. Rice contains more
Rice.
protein. Okay. Okay. Now, some more points I want to discuss. In examination related to these nuts, can you all see this slide, students? Students?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So now here there is a point that is related to nuts. Just a second. So now in examination they have asked that which of the following nuts yield maximum energy. So these four are what? Almond, cashew nut, pistachio, walnut, groundnut. They all come under the category of which one, students? Nuts. Among the nuts, almond yields the maximum energy, that is
Anything.
655 kilocalories. Remember this. And the amount of iron content, that is pistachio. Look at this. This particular thing, it nearly contains 14 milligrams of iron per 100 grams. These are the facts, you have to remember it. Yes.
Yes.
So pistachio is the richest in iron among all the nuts. This is a fact, you have to remember it. The what nut which is rich in energy, that is almond. These facts should not be forgotten. Then another important point is dry coconut. Have you seen students dry coconut? Akarsh,
Yes, ma'am.
Akarsh.
Yes, ma'am.
So I think you must have seen dry coconut, right? Vana kobri, we call it in Kannada.
Yes,
Jai
ma'am.
Shri. So is it good for health or bad for health? It is actually bad for health because it contains saturated type of fatty acids. Yes, the majority of the fatty acids are what? Saturated fatty acids.
Saturated fatty.
That this saturated fatty acids increases the content of what? LDL, low
Cholesterol.
density lipoproteins, and
Yes, ma'am.
this has got what? Lot of plaque formation, or it has got more of atherogenic. This one plaque formation effect is highest with this LDL. So that means what? It is bad for our heart
Health.
health. So that's why this coconut, be very much cautious whenever you consume it, right? Then what about this walnut? Have you seen this walnut? That is akroad we call. I
Yes,
think I
ma'am.
put the picture. It is very much rich in polyunsaturated fatty acids. Again, it is very, very, very good. So why? Because it is very good for the heart health and brain health. Remember this point. The question is asked: which of the following nuts should be given to the children to improve their central nervous system? It is walnut. Yes, students. Do you
Yes,
all
ma'am.
agree with this? So the nut, which is a brain food, if the question is asked, it is a walnut. Nut, which is a richest source of iron, it is pistachio. Nut, which gives lot of energy, almond, and
Almond.
almond also is good amount of calcium. Remember this. Next, coming to the fat part, here can you all see the ghee over here?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
Yes,
students.
ma'am.
Now, ghee, what is the energy yielded by this 100 grams of ghee? So, if you consume 100 grams of ghee, nearly 900 kilocalories of energy is required, and it is very much high in saturated fatty acid. Now, students, tell me now, is it good for heart patients? I mean, cardiac
No,
health?
ma'am.
No.
No. Anywhere saturated fatty acids? No, no, no. That should be your answer. Then, after that, but very important is that it is very much rich in vitamin A and vitamin D.
And
Yes. So again, it is helpful for what, students? It is helpful in the myelination of the neurons. So that is the reason why they say that small children, pregnant ladies, lactating mothers, and even we at least have one spoon of ghee every day. It will help our what neural system. Yes. So it is rich in which one, students? Vitamin A and D.
and
Because these questions they'll be asked in your MCQs. Then after that, remember this ghee is which one, students? It is a animal product. It is a animal product or the animal oil. Now there are plant products, only two plant products which are rich in vitamin A, that is red palm and vanaspati. Otherwise all the plant oils or the plant derived fats, they are deficient in vitamin A and vitamin D. This you have to remember. Plant-based oils. What are the plant-based oils, students? Sunflower
Vanaspati.
oil, safflower oil, coconut, all these are the plant.
Safflower oil.
So, except for red palm oil and vanaspati, rest are all deficient in vitamin A and vitamin D. Now, what is this vanaspati? Or we call it as what? Dalda. So, dalda is also called as vanaspati. So, what is this? Whatever the vegetable oil is there, when we put it for hydrogenation. So, when we synthetically or when we make it, put it under hydrogenation process, then the oil that is produced, which is semi solid or solid in consistency, that oil is called as what? Dalda. Now, what is the problem with this dalda? See, all the vegetable oils, they are very much rich in unsaturated fatty acids. Yes, monounsaturated or polyunsaturated fatty acids. That's why we say that all vegetable oils are very good. But what is problem happening is that vegetable oils, you cannot store it for a long time. They get spoiled when you try to store them for long time. Now what the process they have found, technique they have found, let us do hydrogenation so that they will become semi solid and they can be stored for a long time. That is the better shelf life. So basic purpose is this one. By doing this particular process, what is happening, whatever the unsaturated fatty acids, that is good fats, they are converted to very bad fats, that is saturated fatty acids. This is very important. So vegetable oils, when they are hydrogenated, all the unsaturated fatty acids, they are converted into saturated fatty acids. So this particular thing is called as dalda or vanaspati. So this vanaspati, it contains what? Saturated fatty acids, and nutritionally it is very bad, but and economically it is feasible. So some poor people also, they can afford it. Now just to increase its nutritive value, it has been fortified. That is, additionally we add vitamin A and D just to make it nutritively very much rich. Are you all clear, students?
Yes, ma'am.
Students, so vegetable oils, remember, it is rich in which one? Unsaturated fatty acids, except for coconut oil. Except for coconut oil, it is rich in saturated fatty acids. Remember this. Next, coming to the butter. So butter also, it is 729 kilocalories. So if you want to check for the weight, which is better, ghee is better or butter? Students?
Ma'am, in energy aspect, ghee is
Huh,
better, but
huh.
good
But nutritive value, no?
nutrient value is butter is more
Butter
good.
is more actually. It is better. Because now why you have to know which is better, which is not better? Because MCQs can be asked related to this. They'll give you four options. They'll ask which is better, which is not better, which is deficient, or which is rich. Okay. Then after that, another thing, this is oil, whatever you are seeing, no, it is a groundnut oil. That is oil derived from the groundnut. Now, what is a groundnut oil? It's the mainly, it is a vegetable oil, and it is very much rich in unsaturated
Unsaturated
fatty
fatty acids.
acids. Unsaturated fatty acids, and it is rich in both monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fatty acids, and it is also rich in all the essential fatty acids. Now for cooking, which oil, vegetable oil, do you recommend, students? So it is
Groundnut oil.
better to go ahead with which one? Groundnut oil, because
Groundnut oil.
in every aspect it is very much good. And there are seven essential fatty acids. So among them, the very important which you have to know is these four: linoleic acid, linolenic acid, arachidonic acid, eicosapentaenoic acid. So these are among the four, like out of seven. Now in this particular thing, linoleic acid is very important, because if this is deficient, then rest all essential fatty acid synthesis won't happen. Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Now these look at this table. Some questions can be related asked related to this. Linolenic acid. It is maximum in safflower oil, followed by corn flour and sunflower. So these one, two, three, at least you have to remember. So linolenic, which is an essential fatty acid, it is maximum in safflower oil. Then after that, linolenic acid, linolenic. So little bit lenic. So little bit complicated essential fatty acid. It is present more in soya bean. So this point you have to remember. Then again, if you see the fish oil, this particular E, A, B, C, D, E, F. So this echisopentotonic acid, it is rich in fish oil. So in examination, what you have to focus is linolenic acid and linoleic acid and linolenic acid. Remember these two things. Next is coconut oil. And this is a red palm oil. Coconut oil and red palm oil. Students, which is better, coconut oil or red palm oil?
Coconut oil, ma'am.
Coconut oil.
Coconut oil is superior as compared to that of the red palm oil. But thing is that both of them yield nearly same amount of the energy, and they both contain saturated fatty acids. That's why these two are not recommended for general consumption purpose. It can be externally used, but for cooking purpose, no, they are bad for heart health. Then it is not recommended. So these are the general points related to coconut and palm oil. Now, students, look at this. Anyway, I have discussed about this polished rice. Now, look at this parboiled rice. So, how do you identify this parboiled rice?
Yeah,
How does it look?
Yellowish in color.
lightly brown, ma'am.
Yeah, it looks slightly brown, and it is bit glassy and translucent also. Little bit glassy appearance it will have. And nutritive value, if you see, it contains more amount of proteins. It is always rich actually, and it contains the more amount of carbohydrates also. Can you all just see the slides here?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And but the calorie or the energy yielded is same for this and this polished rice. Now, if you see this brown rice again the protein content is little bit less as compared to that of the parboiled rice, and fat content is little bit more, and the carbohydrate content is that is a little bit less as compared to that of the parboiled rice. Now, what is this parboiled rice? Just to increase the nutritive content, what happened? The Central Food Technological Research Institute, that is CFTRI, Central Food Technological and Research Institute. So, what is said? We need to soak the paddy in the hot water for 65 to 70 degrees for 3 to 4 hours, and followed which the water has to be drained, and then the paddy has to be sent for steaming, then the paddy has to be dried, then again it has to be sent for milling. Milling means what? The outer layer of this rice grain has to be removed. So what is this? We need to soak the paddy in water for 65 to 70 degrees. This temperature can be asked over here. So this method is called as parboiling. Now because of this, what happens? Whatever the vitamins are there, minerals are there, they'll be nicely getting penetrated into the inner surface of the rice grain, and they're not lost also. And very important is that the grain becomes harder, and it will be resistant to the insect invasion. And very much disadvantage with this parboiling is there will be loss of flavor. Whatever the rice flavor is there, it will be lost. So are you all clear with this? So in the
Yes,
parboiling,
ma'am.
the point to be remembered that which particular thing has recommended this technique. It was recommended by Central Food Technological Research Institute, and the method used adopted here is this one: soaking in hot water 65 to 70 degrees. Look at the picture over here. So shall we continue tomorrow, students?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
ma'am.
So tomorrow 8 o'clock, same thing will be continued with some of the tips. Any doubts?
Nice.
No, ma'am.
Mm,